Okay, quiet on the set, quiet on the set. This is short and sweet, the Google Meet episode, take one. Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Short and Sweet. This week, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at Google Meet, which over the last few weeks has had quite a lot of attention and quite a lot of updates. So we're going to look at all of the different ways that you can use Google Meet to reach out to those around you. Let's take a look. So there are a number of ways that you can access your first Google Meet. And obviously the most common is to go through our waffle and to find the logo for Google Meet. But what you might find is it's not automatically sitting there waiting for you to use if you haven't used it before. But remember, this is customizable, and you can, once you've found them, you can move those around to wherever you want. So I can click on Meet, and it will take me to the Meet homepage where I can start a meeting, look at settings and various other aspects, such as sending feedback if I'd like to, and also any troubleshooting and Meet quality reports that I want to see. Okay, so if you've had problems with your Meets, you might be able to find out the reasons why there. I can see which account I'm logged into, and obviously I've got today's date and time. And we can see here that nothing is scheduled for today. If I had other Meets in my calendar or events in my calendar that have been matched with a Google Meet video conference, then those would appear in this list as well. But that's not the only way to get to Google Meet. So the other way is to quite simply go to meet.google.com. And once you've done it a few times, as you can see here, Google starts to learn, and actually you only need to type enter to get to your screen. And you see you get a different stylized background every time, but the layout is exactly the same. So to join my first Google Meet, all I do is click on the dark green bar here, the plus that we're used to from elsewhere in Google. And we can enter a meeting code if we know one, if we've been provided with the code, for example, or we can enter a nickname to start our own meeting, or we can leave it blank. Okay. Now, if we're just going to be using Meet to record, which you can do, and we'll look at that, then you don't really need to enter a nickname. But if you're going to be sharing this with other people, entering a nickname for the event, such as Meet Short and Sweet, gives this particular meet a unique name, and it also gives it the feature that once I create this meet and let other people join, once I leave, then as long as I'm the last person out, then people aren't able to rejoin it after me. Okay, so it becomes a gated meeting. So I'm going to click on the continue, but notice here, something we'll look at later, we'll look at how we can schedule a meeting in Calendar as well. But for now, I'm just going to say continue. This takes me to the start page, the launch page for Google Meets, where I can see clearly whether my microphone is working because the green bars bounce up and down. I can mute my microphone and I can turn off my camera very easily, and those features stay once we're in the Meet. And I can also check my settings, so I can turn on closed captions if I'd like to. I can change my settings and select the appropriate audio or the appropriate video and camera and definition if I want to, okay? And if I want to present to a meeting, I can just click present here. You see that in some cases, you've also got the option to join by phone as well, just for audio. So we're going to go ahead and click join now. And you'll see the first thing we get is the option to copy the joining information, which will put that on our clipboard, and we can then send that and share that with other people, or to add people directly by email or by mobile phone number, and we can just add their emails in there. Okay, and you'll notice once you've done it a few times, it will start to suggest people that you might want to invite through Google's AI. Okay, but now I'm in this meeting on my own. I'm in a position where I can use this to record if I want to. So along the bottom here, there's my microphone again, and there's my camera. Over here is all of the information about the meeting itself, including any attachments. If I've made this in Calendar and put attachments in the calendar invite, they would be accessible there as well. And then also the option to turn on captions. So if I turn the captions on, what we'll see is that Google Meet starts to listen to what I'm saying, and its AI starts to understand and produce closed captions for anybody that's part of the Meet that maybe is hard of hearing or is listening in an area that is quite noisy and maybe they don't have the option of headphones and things like that. Okay, so it's a really useful tool. I'm just going to turn that off now though. I've also got some other extensions running here, but if I wanted to share my screen, I can come here and I can present, and I get three options. The first enables me to present my whole screen. The second, just a window within my screen. And finally, just a single Chrome tab. And as you can see here, that's the option you should choose if you know you want to show a video or any kind of animation that's got audio and things like that. That's the option you should use. And you can bounce between the two. So if I was to share my entire screen here as an option, you can see I get a choice of my two screens, and I just click on the one I want and click share. And it tells me that I'm sharing. I can hide that. And then if I want to, down the bottom here, I can come back, it's stop presenting, and then present again and go just to my Chrome tab if I want to present my video. Okay, I'm not going to present at the moment. Over here, behind the three dots, we've got all of our options here, such as reporting abuse, which is obviously important. Our settings, just like we had before, but now we can access them from within the Meet. Turning on the captions again, which is available down the bottom here. The ability to go full screen and change our layout. So we've got an option for different layout styles. There's the tiled grid view, which will allow up to 16 people in the window. The sidebar, automatic, which adjusts to what it thinks is best, and spotlight, which picks up the person who's speaking. Okay. And right at the very top, you've also got the option to record the meeting. And if I start recording this meeting now, all that happens is I ask for consent for everyone that's part of it, or if I'm recording it for a lesson, I don't need to worry. And then I click accept, and the record button in the top left will turn red when we're recording. There we go, so we're now recording, and I can do anything I like on screen here, and I can share my screen, and that can all become part of a lesson or part of a tutorial for a member of staff, however you want to do it. And all you need to do is come back to the three dots and stop recording to stop it. Now, the really good thing about recording in Meet is that as soon as you stop recording, that recording starts to process. Okay, so that recording starts to process. It will automatically be taken to a folder in your Google Drive called Meet Recordings. And if you haven't got that folder, it creates it for you. And also, if during the course of the recording there's been any conversation in the chat, that's also recorded and sent through as a text document as well. So that all goes through into that folder, Meet Recordings, in your Drive, but you'll also get an email as well as the owner of the Meet. So what you might also notice is at the top here, we've got a small image of myself on screen. There's your chat option. So you can type in the chat here and everyone can respond to that. If you've got multiple people into the call, if you click on people, you'll see every person that's listed. And if you've got multiple people in the call and you're the organizer, you're able to click on each individual person and mute their microphone or remove them from the call altogether or pin them if they are the guest speaker, for example. So only the organizers have opportunity to do that. People who are guests can't mute each other and they can't kick each other out of the meeting, okay? And that appears just by clicking on the person and it pops up down the bottom here, okay? Equally, click off of there and go back into the chat. You'll notice that I've also got here a grid view extension on, which just gives me a few extra options because that doesn't max out at 16 people on the screen. So this is a great extension that actually I've had, I think, around about 120 people on screen at once. And obviously it just resizes all of their windows to make them fit. But it's quite impressive. It also enables you, which is what I really like, this screen capture mode that when you are using it, takes all of the names off screen. So if you do want to use it for a team photo, for example, then you can turn on screen capture mode and it takes all the names off for data protection purposes. Okay, so that's the two ways that you can create a meet and how you can record from it. Okay, I'm going to hand over you now to Ben, and Ben is going to be looking at how you can use Google Meet within Google Classroom. Okay, over to you, Ben.
Cheers, Darren, for showing us how to use Google Meet as a tool and also how to create a Google Meet from Google Meet's homepage itself. So now we're going to move on to look at how Google Meet integrates within Google Classroom. So this is going to be a really handy tool for you creating unique links for your students to join into within Google Classroom. So you don't have to go to the homepage if you don't want to. Students can come to the one place they know, which is their Google Classroom, and access the Google Meet live lesson or a catch up via their Google Classroom. So let's look at the ways in which we can do that and the ways in which we can protect ourselves whilst doing it as well. So as you can see, if you haven't done it for the first time, you're going to come into your Google Classroom and you're going to see your banner at the top with your usual photo, class code, etc. And you're now going to have a Meet link appearing here. So if you haven't done it before, it's going to ask you to generate a Meet link here. So I'm just going to click on this hyperlink because as soon as I hover over it, it gives me that underline. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to say, with Meet video meetings, you can connect with students for distance learning. You can manage your Meet in your class settings. We're going to look at class settings in just a minute. We're going to click Generate Meet Link here. So once I've generated that link, I have the option to copy it. So maybe I'd like to email it to my students instead. Although I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. You could just, as I say, leave it up on the classroom banner here and they join via that. So that's personally how I'd do it. And you have the option here for visibility to students. So it's currently on. So students can, at the moment, see this link. Now, I wouldn't turn this on until around 5 or 10 minutes before your meeting is scheduled. So say you have a meeting at 2 o'clock. I wouldn't turn that on until about 10 to 2 and make sure you are the first person in there. Now, the reason I say that is to make sure you have overall control of the meeting. You can mute and remove people from the meet very easily. If a student gets in first, depending on your domain settings, they may have overall control, and that isn't great. So make sure that you turn that on and then you're the first person to go in. So I'm going to leave visibility onto students right now because I'm going to show you how it looks from a student point of view as well. So once I'm done, I'm going to click Save. Now, this Meet link is now up here. This is unique to my Google Classroom, unique to the students within it. So you can see here that this link here is horrible. You can go over it and click onto that link. Now, there is another way you can do this as well. If you go to the settings cog in the top right hand corner and you scroll down, you'll see underneath General, Google Meet now has its own section here, which again, you can turn off the visibility to students, and you also have the option of clicking on your link to copy or reset the link. Now, resetting the link will come in handy towards the end, and I'll show you why. But for now, it's just showing you can access it from in here as well. You don't just have to access it from your banner, but it's quite a neat little feature that Google Classroom has just integrated. So whenever I'm ready, I've just turned on the link and I'm about to join my meeting to see my students. So I'm just going to click on Meet Link there. It will open a new tab for me and take me straight to Google Meet. Now I'm going to turn my camera and microphone off just because I'm doing a screencastify now, so I don't want to have any feedback or anything like that. Okay, and as soon as I'm ready, I'm just going to click Join Now. So now I'm in the meeting. It gives me the option again to copy the joining information and add people if I want to as well via email address. But I'm not going to do that because my students have got the link within Google Classroom. So I'm just going to close that off and now wait for my students to join. So I'm just going to make sure I've got the right account here. Okay, so I'm now going to go across to my other account and show you how it looks from a student point of view. So give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to go to Google Classroom now. Not this Google Classroom, let's go to this one. Okay, and now you can see the Meet link is visible here. And I'm going to show you at the end, once I turn that visibility off, that this will disappear for a student point of view. But you can now see it's visible for those students to join. So I can again hover over this link and click on it. By clicking on it, it opens up a new tab, just the same as the teacher does. And then you can also see here that it shows me who's on the call and gives me the option to join now. So I can see currently my teacher is on this call. I have the option to present, although obviously the teacher would normally be presenting. So I'm just going to click join now. So now I've joined into the meeting. I've obviously got my microphone on mute and camera off because I'm screen recording. I don't want that to have any feedback or any other problems with it. But from a student point of view now, because the teacher's joined first, if I go to my people view, I can't change anything to do with the teacher. If I click on them, I can only pin them to my screen. I can't mute them and I can't remove this participant. Okay, so I can't change anything to do with the teacher. This is me as a student. So now if I go back to the teacher account, I'm going to show you that you as a teacher have overall control of your Meet. So you can actually take people out once you're finished. If people are refusing to leave, or someone's given the code out to someone else who isn't in your classroom, you can remove them from the meeting as well. So again, same thing, you're going to go to your people view from the teacher account. Okay, now this is me as a teacher, but this is a student. So if they weren't on mute, I could already mute them. But as they're muted already, I can't do that. All right. I can hide the participants so they don't show on the screen. And I can also remove them from the session completely. So at the end of the session, you want these people to leave, but they, for whatever reason, they're not at the computer and you want to leave the meeting, you can actually just remove them by clicking on that and then clicking remove again. Okay. Now it says B Moore has been removed from the meeting. And I'll go back to my student account and show you what it looks like. So someone has removed you from the meeting. There you go. And you only have the option to return to the home screen. Now they can go back to the Google Classroom and click the link again. But I'm going to show you now. So once you've removed everybody from the meeting, from a teacher, you're going to click the red hang up button to leave call. And you're going to go return to home screen. Okay. Now, once you're back at the home screen, this basically just cancels out and completely closes down the window for you. Now, what we're going to do here is now, from a teacher's point of view, we're going to remove the visibility to students so they can't rejoin after we've left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my settings cog in the top right again, scroll down to general, and I'll have the visible to students toggle here. I'm going to turn it to off. Okay, so I'm going to toggle that off, and then I'm also going to go over to my Meet link here and reset. Now you can leave it the same if you want to. It'll be the same link every time for your students if you leave it. Personally, I like to reset it just for my sake, because if students share that out to any other students, I don't want them having the link and being able to join again next time. So I always reset that and it gives me a new unique code. And as soon as I'm ready next time, I'll just turn the visibility back on to students. So once I'm done making those changes, I'll click save. Now I can still see the link here, but I've now got a line through the eye which shows that it is not visible to students. Now if I go back to my student account again, just to show you, I'll go back to Google Classroom. That link has now disappeared. They cannot see that link, so there's no way of them rejoining that session. Okay, and you can see from here, Google Meet, you've only got the option to return to home screen, so they can't join back into that meeting that you've already had. So I'll pass you back to Darren to look at creation of a Google Meet through Google Calendar, and I'll see you back shortly for creation through Gmail.
Thanks, Ben. So now we know how to work with Google Classroom. We may need to also consider creating a Google Meet using Calendar, because that's the only way that you can create a Google Meet with a live stream. And you might decide that's something you want to do with a class or a group of students or staff. So being able to create that in Calendar is a really important point. So I'm just going to go to Google Calendar right now. And here we can see my Google Calendar, and I'm going to move on to the following week. There we go. And I'm going to create a live stream for tomorrow. So I've got myself a blank event in Google Calendar, and I'm going to call this one a streamed lesson for Year 8. Okay, and that's going to be at 2 o'clock until 2:50 on that day. Okay, you can see here it's already added. So I'm going to call this one streamed lesson for Year 8. And you can see that that's on the 29th of May, 2 o'clock till 2:50, and it doesn't repeat and it's not an all-day event. It's asking me here if I want to add Google Meet video conferencing, and yes, I do. Now, sometimes it will do this automatically. Sometimes you'll need to prompt it, okay? All that's doing is creating a normal Google Meet for me, which is fine if I want to converse with another teacher, for example. But if I want to live stream, there's another step I have to take. And that's here behind this tiny little arrow. I can drop down, and here you see the option to add live stream. So I click there, and it's now giving me a live stream link, which I would copy, and then I would post in Google Classroom for my Year 8 class to say, we're going to have a live stream lesson at 2 o'clock tomorrow. This is the link that you will need to follow. Okay. Now, for those students, they would, even if they clicked on that link early, would just get this particular screen, waiting for stream to begin, please stand by, until such time as I go into the Meet backstage in the normal Meet through this link, okay, rather than the stream link. If I go in through there, I'm able to start the stream. Okay, now I might want to add other staff in because we might be team teaching or delivering together. So I can add other staff here quite easily. But for the purposes of now and just showing you what happens with that live stream, I'm going to go into our Google Meet backstage. Remember that as a kind of way of thinking about things. And I'm going to join it now. And you'll see at the top here, I've got the option to start streaming. Down in the bottom right, everything else is exactly the same. But I've also got start streaming just above the record button. So I can choose to start streaming and then record, or I can choose to record and then start streaming. But until I press start streaming, nothing's going to happen on that other screen. It's still just sitting there waiting for the stream to begin. And there will be about a 15 to 20 second delay that you'll need to bear in mind, because when you're then giving students the opportunity to respond, you've got to bear in mind that there's going to be a minimum of sort of 15 to 20 seconds before they've even finished hearing what you've just said. So bear that in mind and prepare yourself for that, because it can be a bit strange at first with an awkward silence. So we would start the stream. We make sure that everybody in the backstage areas are okay with streaming, and then we go ahead, and we'll see this will come up as live shortly. And like I said, we can choose to record as well, so that students who miss out could watch it later. And if we did that, we would get a second one, just like we did earlier. And now, if I click onto the live stream, record as well, so that students who miss out could watch it later. And if we did that, we would get a second one, just like we. So I'll just mute that, so we can see that that's about 15 to 20 seconds behind. If I come back now and I finish that stream, I decide to stop streaming, and we go back to the live stream that students are watching. Obviously, it's going to continue on for a few more seconds because it's going to finish up to the point where I stop streaming. And then it just goes to the stream has ended. So a really useful way of streaming a lesson to students without any interruption. Now, you might be wondering then, what's the point of that? You don't have the option of any interaction with students. And actually you do. The way I do it, I have two ways. I either use a Google form, which I share with the students, and I have the responses sheet, and they put all their comments in a Google form, and I'm able to read those on my screen. Or I use Google Slides Q&A function, which is under Presenter View and the Audience Tools, and that puts a URL on the screen for them that they can go to submit questions, and then I can choose to bring those questions up on screen. So it does enable us to still have that level of interaction, but without any of the interruptions, and also none of the dangers of background noises, pet bombs, parents in the background, and all sorts of things like that can happen quite easily if we've got cameras on. With a live stream, you can't see into the children's home, okay? They can only see whatever you choose to show them on the screen, okay? And obviously I've got a green screen here, so they don't see anything other than anything I want to show them, okay? So that's how we can use Google Calendar to create a stream. But one thing to bear in mind is, even whether you create the stream and you can remove the live stream if you want to as well, doesn't matter. If you create an event in Calendar and you make it a repeating event, so you say, for example, it repeats on a Friday, what you will find is we just save that, there's that streamed lesson on Friday the 29th, and the Meet code is JHOYNEKDAW. And then what you'll find is the following week's repeated one is exactly the same code. So if you have got repeat meetings, you don't have to keep sending out new codes every time. So if you're working with staff, you're working with the same group of people, and it's a repeat meeting at the same time, then you can just have the one existing code that continues through, which obviously makes things a lot easier because everybody knows then it's the same code every time. Okay, so I'm going to hand back over to Ben now, who's going to look at how you can create a Google Meet from Gmail, which is a relatively new function. Back to you, Ben.
Fantastic. So now we've looked at 3 different ways in which you can create a Google Meet. So we've looked at how to use Meet as a tool and how to create using a nickname from Google Meet's homepage itself. We've also looked at the integration within Google Classroom with me just earlier on. Now, Darren's just gone through the creation from Google Calendar. This is a gift that keeps giving, right? So now we're going to move on to the integration within Gmail as well. So this is a new feature, probably the most recent that Google have integrated for us, and it makes complete sense. So all of us are on emails all the time at the moment. We're constantly checking emails, and it makes sense to have the integration within Gmail as well. So as you can see on the left-hand side here, between my Google Hangouts chat box and the labels area that I've got here, I've now got a new Google Meet section. Now, at the end of this short video, I'm going to show you how to move that to the right-hand side if you've got lots of labels, because in my work account, this has become very cramped because I've got lots of different labels to separate things out to help me achieve my inbox zero, which is a complete new video, but definitely worth doing. So I've moved my chat box to the right-hand side, and I'll show you how to do that just at the end of the video. It's really easy. So as you can see, I have 2 options here: to start a meeting direct, or I've got the option to join a meeting. So starting a meeting does exactly what it says on the tin. I can just click start a meeting there. It opens up a new tab with a unique Google Meet link to it, and I can join directly in here. So I'm going to turn my camera and mic off to make sure I don't get any feedback. But you can see this is a unique link. This is very quick. You know, it's meant for quick meetings to show someone how to do something. Maybe someone's emailed you asking you for help with something, and it's easier to show or explain via voice rather than it is replying to an email. So that's why you've got the option to quick start a meeting through there without having to go to Google Meet's homepage itself. So once you're in Google Meet like this, it operates as a normal platform. So I can click join now, and I have the option to invite other people via email or copy the join information and send it to them in an email. Okay, and that will appear in a normal way that you send an email. They'll just click on the link that they get and join straight into the meeting. Now, you've also got the option here to join an existing meeting. Now, this is particularly if you've got the, if it's been created with a nickname, so maybe a colleague has created a quick meeting just to talk about something in particular. You can click join, enter your meeting code or the nickname. So if you know the sort of the number, or sorry, not number, the text arrangement here, you can type in that code here, and you don't have to put in the dashes. They're optional, and you can join directly from your Gmail. So I think it's a really tidy way of pulling everything together, especially now that we're all on emails all the time, or a lot of the time, just to quickly join in with a meeting or create a meeting directly from our inbox itself. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to move the Meet section over to the right-hand side whilst I'm here. And say I personally use this on my work account, but I'm currently on my trainer domain, so I'm just going to show you how that works now. So you're going to go over to the settings cog and go to settings, and then you're going to go across to advanced as the tab up here. So click advanced, and then you'll see here you have the option for right side chat. So I'm just going to click enable and save changes, in which my Gmail will refresh itself. And you'll see now on the right hand side, my Meet section is now over there alongside my chat inbox as well. So my Hangouts and Meet is all on the right hand side, which tidies up quite nicely to make things a bit easier, a bit more legible. Especially if I have lots of labels. If I had all my labels open like this, it just keeps everything separated, nice and tidy and well organised.
That's great, Ben. Thanks. So the last thing we're going to do, as I mentioned earlier, is just look at how we can make that Google streaming interaction work with those QA sessions and that Google form so that you can keep your communication going with your students or your audience, even if it's not students. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a brand new Google form. And all I would do here is make this a comment form. Oops. Something generic like that, spelled correctly, obviously. And then I might put something in the description here. Please ask or answer any questions here. Or even shout out for your friend's birthday. And all I'd ask is 2 questions. I'd ask for the person's name, and I might choose to collect email addresses. And I've got that saved as a favorite so that I know for definite who's doing it. I can choose whether I restrict it to my domain or not. In this case, I'm not going to. Okay, and I just want that to be a short answer question, but I want it to be required. So I'm going to ask for their name, and the next thing I'm going to ask for is their comment, which might be a question or an answer. And again, it's going to be a long answer text this time, just in case there's a slightly longer answer, and make it required. And then all I'm going to do is turn that as a form and share it with my audience. Now, I might convert that to a bit.ly link or something along those lines, so it's a little bit shorter. And of course, when we do share, we have got the option, if we want to share with a link, to shorten the URL as well. So I might just copy that, paste it in Google Classroom for my students, and wait for them to respond. Okay. Then what I would do, I'd go to my responses, I'd open up a Google spreadsheet. Let's just name that first of all. There we go. So I'm going to open up my spreadsheet, and I would have this on my second screen or on a second device. And I would hide the timestamp because that's not actually important. But here I'd be getting the email address of the person commenting, their name and their actual comment. And I might open that up a little bit more. And I might, as an addition, make here a little column for notes. So if I was presenting with somebody else, as the comments coming in, they might be able to suggest some potential answers or solutions or some potential questions we might want to answer as follow-up. So that's all I would do. I'm presenting, and that's on a second screen or a second device or shared with a second person. And the comments are dropping in here, and I'm able to then acknowledge the name of the person asking the questions and respond to their comments accordingly. So that's the Google Forms way, using that. Equally, what I might do is go into Google Slides and open up this particular session that I've been working on. And you'll notice at the top right hand corner here, next to the present button, there's a tiny drop down arrow. And if I click on that, it gives me the presenter view. And this is the normal presenter view, and we'd have this on a second screen or on our device, and the larger screen would be the one that displays for our audience. If we've got any speaker notes, they would appear here, but just to the left, we've got audience tools, and I've got the option here to start a new audience tool. And what you can see immediately is that slides.app.goo.gl ehctv is the web address that they would need, and anybody could log into that and submit a question. But when they submit the question, they would appear in this window, okay? And then I would have the choice as to whether I share those or not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to slides.app.goo.gl/ehctv, and I'm going to access that site. I'm going to choose my account, and I'm going to submit a question. So I'm going to submit the question. I have the choice of whether I want to submit it by name or anonymously. So I'm going to submit it anonymously and just click submit. And what we'll see is the question has popped up straight away in our view, and I've got the option to present or not. So if I just take this off screen for a second, if I'm in the middle of my presentation, I might say, oh, right, okay, we've got a question that's come in from somebody. I don't know who it was, but they really like this feature and they want to know, wow, does this let you see questions afterwards? Well, that's a really good question, actually. So let me just show you how that works. So I come off of the present mode and I can close out of there. And what we will notice is, because I've come out, that's finished that Q&A session. But if I come here to Tools and to Q&A History, which now shows up, I've got every Q&A session I've done using this particular question, this particular slideshow, and I can click here and see a record of any questions that were asked. So I've always got a record of what questions were asked on a particular presentation or particular evening or a particular lesson, any questions that people have asked. So I could look back on that afterwards and help that inform my future planning. Okay, so that is how we go about using slides or Google Forms and Sheets for that element of interaction within a Google Stream. So that's it for another episode of Short and Sweet. We hope you found that useful. And remember, Google Meet is a fantastic tool that at the moment you can share with 250 people within your domain in the actual meet, and up to 100,000 in your domain if you're streaming. So huge capabilities. Next week, we'll be going live again with our very special guest, Alfonso Mendoza, who's going to be here to take us through a tour of a fantastic tool for teaching and learning in the remote world, but also in a normal classroom, which is Edpuzzle. So we look forward to seeing you live next week. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.